Hello, my name is Jeff Pagano, and welcome to Harping on Rugby, where with the help of some fellow fans, I get the chance to harp on what's going on with Leinster, Ireland, and the wider rugby world. First up, joining me is someone earning cap number 20 to go with well over 100 articles back in the day. He hosts his own multi-sport pod called Post to Post Sport. Welcome back to Mr. Kieran Duffy.
Yes, nice to be back on harping on rugby again. The big leagues. I consider my post about sport rugby coverage kind of the second tier of the Rugby Europe Championship, if you like. So nice that this isn't ring fenced and harping on rugby, and I can come on regularly.
No such thing as ring fences around here for sure. And our second guest is making his second appearance on this pod, but he's been on many other ones, including Clayland Scully's. Hello again to Mr. David Cordial.
Hey lads, good to be here.
Indeed, good to have. All of which brings us to our final thoughts from the match in Pretoria, starting with Kieran.
Yeah, I think I read there that 6 of the last 7 games between the two sides have been one score games. So I mean, it was tight. And as we said, it could have gone either way. Interesting to see what happens then next week, because there are arguments to be made for. I don't think you make wholesale changes. I don't think you say, because if you do that, you'll just there's going to be no fluency, and it's going to become very difficult to get any kind of positive result, or any kind of result that doesn't look really bad. But I think you can make the argument. Look, I think Jack Crowley has to start, because he's still only being our first choice fly half for basically 6 games. So I think he needs to start. But there's an argument to be made for saying either Sam Prendergast or Kieran Frawley gets time in that position as well towards the end of the game. I'm pretty adamant that from our point of view, I just said South Africa seemed to really be focused on just winning the game. But from our point of view, the results here won't matter if we don't get past the quarterfinal in the next World Cup, and they won't matter if we do get past the quarterfinal in the next World Cup. I think either way, this is kind of a game to experiment and have a few goes at things. Yeah, I think Jack Crowley has to start, but there's an argument to be made. Sam Prendergast, to bring him off the bench for 20 minutes just to give him that first cap. Sometimes you're better off maybe having a first cap that isn't as high profile, I suppose, as starting against the Springboks would have been. So I think Jack Crowley has to play. As I said, there's an argument to be made for Caelan Blade starting, purely because we know what Conor Murray offers. We don't know what Caelan Blade offers at this level necessarily. So there's an argument for that. And look, you can talk about other positions as well, like the fly half situation or the fullback situation is interesting. Jamie Osborne, he was. I think he passed the test this weekend, not perfectly, but he passed. I think he has to get more game time there than just, regardless of if we won or lost that game, he has to. If it's an experiment, you have to try it a few times. You have to give him more experience of fly half. He probably would have got more time of fly half for Leinster if Ringrose and Natai hadn't been injured. But there's an argument to be made. Fly half to give someone else time there. And there's other players who'll be putting their hands up. It's nearly a shame. It's nearly a shame that there's only 2 tests. There's not a third against Namibia or something, another African team where you could try a few other players. But I think I think there has to be an eye to the November internationals, which will have an eye to the Six Nations in the next game. So yeah, whether Jamie Osborne starts, whether a fullback, or not, whether how much time Jack Crowley gets, if Kieran Frawley starts, there's an argument to be made for starting him at 15. So you kind of have your 2 playmakers, and he's a bit more experienced there. So I think I think there's changes to be made, but it shouldn't be wholesale fish off. I think there's plenty of positives. We have a habit of, in Irish sport, whenever we lose a game, it's a catastrophe and it's a disaster. It's the end of the world, whether it's football or rugby. I remember people giving out that Rashid Adalake only won a silver medal in the European Championships. That's how disappointed we can be without winning things sometimes. But I think there are positives to take, and to be honest, we have plenty to we plenty to work on. But for what this game was, I certainly don't think it's a disaster to lose by 7 points away to South Africa.
Yeah, David?
Yeah, I think it's with regards to Pretoria, it's a game Ireland look back on in a positive light and a negative light. I think going forward to next week, it's going to be very interesting to see how things pan out. I would agree with the general point of not making wholesale changes, but I think there's going to be quite a few that are going to be forced on us. I think obviously Dan Sheehan's out, so Ronan Kelleher starts. With They've called up Dave Heffernan and they've called up Nathan Doak to replace Craig Casey. I would be interested. Unless there's some real 4D chess going on, I can't see either of those being selected. Although I said the same about Caden Blade, so you never know what'll actually happen there, or which of Doak or Blade will presumably back up Murray. I would imagine that solidity will be favoured and Conor Murray will start there. In the centres, we could end up in a situation where I think both Bundy Aki, even though he managed to finish the game, was in some discomfort when it ended. So between that and Robbie Henshaw having to be drawn ashore at half time, I think there's a good chance that we could end up having a completely different centre partnership. But if the centre partnership switches from Bundy Aki and Robbie Henshaw to Stuart McCluskey and Gary Ringrose, it's not a massive step down. Unless the intent is to have Sam Prendergast come off the bench for Crowley next week, I think there's a decent chance of a 6-2 split with Kieran Frawley as number 23. I felt Frawley, even though he didn't have a bad game this week, there was a bit of me that felt it was a wasted substitution insofar as he was wearing 22, but he came on for Jamie Osborne. Now, it was Osborne's first cap, and the intent may have always been to ease him in and to have him be able to come off after a certain amount of time. Obviously, Frawley can cover for Jack Crowley in the incredibly unlikely event that he ever gets hurt. But it did feel like that the game didn't materially change for Ireland when Kieran Frawley came on. Now that can be viewed as positive in terms of the stability offered, but as opposed to when you compare it to say the impact that a bomb squad has when they come off the bench, it did feel like, I don't know, if maybe another forward might have been of more advantage there. So if you have Kieran Frawley at 23 and you know that Jamie Osborne has what it takes to play, particularly when we're no longer at altitude, I could see a shift to a 6-2 bench, 6-2 split on the bench there, with maybe someone like Nick Timoney coming in to add an extra hit out in the back row. So we could, purely through enforced changes, we could see a shift in the 23 next week. But I think because of the players that we have backing us up, it's going to be a shift to a playing squad that we're already fairly familiar with too. You know, Ronan Kelleher starting, Stuart McCluskey starting, Gary Ringrose starting. You know, these are not steps down by any stretch of the imagination.
Well, listen, that's brilliant, lads. Listen, we're going to leave it there. Many thanks again to Kieran and David for joining me, and I hope to have you both back on again soon. Thanks, lads.
Thanks, Jeff.
Thanks, Jeff.